Good morning to you all, respected judges, moral tutor, and to all my dear friends. Today, our group stand for the motion stating that modern food trends and growth in tourism is impacting negatively to our local food. Modern food trend weakening Bhutan's traditional food identity. Point states that imported products and social media influence food trend leads to changing people's choice of intake of food. And according to Paul, in Thimphu, due to increasing import of packaged foods, youths are taking more interest in international food items rather than our local food items. According to FAO, modernization is slowly destroying our local food tradition, which is disheartening. Now, growth of tourism in Bhutan impacting local food tradition. According to Skoder, even though Bhutan follows high value, low volume tourism policy, restaurants and hotels changed how they present local food to match tourist taste by reducing spiciness of food and mixing local food with foreign flavors.
Good morning to honorable judges, model tutor, our worthy opponent, and all the audiences. Today, I firmly stood against the motion that modern food and tourism lead to the loss or preservation of our Bhutanese cuisine. And I strongly oppose to this point because it is the force that keeps the culinary heritage alive, relevant, and thriving in the modern world. And to prove this point, I would like to point out two strong points. And firstly, modern food trend and tourism foster culture hybridization and revitalization, not homogenization. And this is because, according to the theory of culture hybridization, it is said that when two culture meets, it does not vanish the culture, but it enhances and evolves a strong culture. Also, according to our Bhutan's own high value and low volume policy, it ensures that our culinary heritage is not sold, but it is safeguarded and celebrated. So, to our worthy opponent who claims that our food identity is vanishing, I would like to say that it is not vanishing, but it is evolving. And secondly, the tourists, it helps to strengthen the rural economic and also preserve the culinary roots. And what happens when demand of Bhutanese food cuisine increases? What happens? It increases the demand of the local sources such as red rice, perilla seed, and yak cheese. Also, according to FAO 2021, the Travel to Food initiatives has increased the income source of the Western farmers by 30%.
First of all, I would like to thank opposition. However, I would like to argue that modern food trends are changing our farming system and it has a negative impact on the environment, which is required for our traditional food production system, which depends heavily on the environmental factors and economic factors. As per National Environment Commission in 2021, it stated that 30% of the commodities that we import from other countries are mainly under the influence of modern food trends and for tourism. This means that we are shifting from our traditional food commodities to modern and outsourcing our ingredients. And also, as per Food and Agriculture Organization in 2021, it stated that there is a decline in traditional food production such as yak, cheese, and butter. The yak cheese, which we ferment and make it as zete and perilla oil, and red rice and sorghum are slowly decreasing, which is worsened by the marketing demand. And my second argument is that we are commercializing our food to the for tourists as a exotic attraction, and it is slowly being separated from the spiritual and religious and social significance that we have, and it is slowly losing our true identity of the traditional cuisine such as dresi and shamdre. And Buddhist Observer's report in 2023, it reported that our traditional food or cuisine is slowly being changed as per preference of the tourists. It is becoming milder. We're replacing the ingredients, local ingredients, with non-local ingredients to cater to the needs of tourists. And also, due to the modern food trends, we are also slowly adapting to their food trends instead of preserving our own.
Good morning, respected judges, model tutor, and all my friends. My worthy opponent stated that the modern food trends and tourism they are threatening our agroecology, but I strongly disagree with his stand. Instead of threatening the agroecology, rather it strengthens the agroecology. So let us not forget that the heartbeat of Bhutanese cuisine begins in our field, not in foreign restaurants. And who is helping to keep that alive? Of course, it's tourism. So modern food trends and tourism are not threat to our farm, rather they are lifeline. They are helping farmers to rediscover the worth of traditional foods and protect the very ecology that gives Bhutanese cuisine its soul. So tourism has created the new markets, new potentials and new possibilities. So when the ecologists and the farm to table restaurants ask for red rice, chilies, perilla seeds, they are giving our rural farmers the reason to preserve our indigenous seeds. So tourism becomes bridge connecting local tradition with global appreciation and profit with preservation. Also, my worthy opponent stated that the modern food trends and tourism they are eroding our local cuisine, but I strongly disagree with this point. But rather I say that the modern food trends and tourism they are redefining our local cuisine. Modern food trends and tourism they revives our local cuisine, and our food does not remain frozen in time, rather it evolves, develops and speaks with every generation without losing its language of authenticity. And the culture which refuses to change remains relic, but our Bhutanese cuisine is alive. It bends without breaking. So when the chef adds creative touch or moderate spice for foreign visitors, they are not diluting our identity. Instead, they are creating the language that the world understands. So lastly, I want to conclude that modern food trends and tourism, it is the stage where Bhutanese food proudly performs. Thank you.
So, good morning to our judges and our moderators and my worthy opponents. So, firstly, to counter, so I want to briefly explain the one survey that is conducted in one of the top hotels in our country. They have done the survey on the commodifications of culture, Bhutanese tourists in the globalized context. So, what they have found that Bhutanese traditional food are commoditized. Commoditized means it is changed and adapted according to the taste and preference of our tourists. We have lost our originality of our traditional food. Like if I give a simple example of our Buddhist food like emadasi. Emadasi is one of the simplest food in our country. Like any household, any family can prepare it. But in the popular hotel like Bemako and Le Méridion's, to prepare emadasi, the mozzarella cheese imported from India to make emadasi. So we lost our taste and our way we see our traditional food. And second is I want to explain based on the human psychology aspect. To explain the human psychology, so I will be using a theories of social learning theory. So it is discovered by the Albert Bandura in the 2022. Based on this theory, it is explained that we human we try to imitate or we observe things before we practically do that things. So to for a human to do a particular thing, he have to constantly observe, and after constantly observe, what our brain does is our brain will send a signal to our body that okay, this is right and you should go for it. Based on this theory, it is concluded that our youth are constantly getting to observe those changes in our traditional foods. So if I give the simple example of it, nowadays there is popular food like sushi and lobsters and octopus. If you look at a geographical locations of our country, so lobsters they are found in the sea area, but now it is getting popular in our country. Why? Because we constantly see the tourists eating them. Next is nephobia reductions and the novelty seeking theory. So based on this theory, it is explained that when they constantly observe something, our brain will send the signal to us to go for it and taste for it.
Good morning to all, respected judges, moderator, and all my fellow debaters. My worthy opponent stated that global food exposures leads to
commodification of culture. I strongly disagree with that because global food exposures they encourage culinary the innovations as well as the cultural resilience. And in particular, exposure to the global or international cuisines through media or tourism inspired the Bhutanese youths to reinterpret the traditional recipes using the modern techniques. And this creates the cultural resilience. According to the Tourism Council of Bhutan 2023, over 40% of started the restaurants in Peru and the Thimphu, they integrate, not keep aside the traditional ingredients, but they integrate with the modern fusion dishes. And this is in align with the globalization theory, where the global food exposure not lead to the loss of traditional ingredients, but revitalization through adaptation. Secondly, my worthy opponent mentioned that the tourism they encourage performative authenticity. It's not like that. I strongly disagree with that. Because tourism the fosters participatory authenticity, not the performative imitations. So Bhutan's high value and a low volume tourism model explicitly they integrate community participation in food tourism. So according to the Gross National Happiness Commission 2022 reported that the community-based tourism program in Ha, Bumthang, and Punakha directly involve local farmers in making or preparing traditional meals for tourists, which has strengthened the intergenerational transmission of food knowledge. This align with empowerment theory, where the tourism they serve as a vehicle for cultural continuity, but it's not threat to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, my worthy opinion. I see your points that you're saying that culinary heritage are keeping alive, hybrid culture and fostering participatory authenticity. But I don't think I can agree with your words and statement. It is because that ecological globalization through tourism's marginalize the local production, which weakens the community-based food system. Minister of Agriculture and Livestock report in 2023 found out that more than 45% of the commodities that are used in the restaurant hotels they are being imported, but they can be these imported materials they can readily available and they can be sourced from the local farmers that results in sidelining of our local farmers. For example, in case of imadasi, as mentioned by one of my friends, imadasi can be prepared by the ingredients with the dried chili or fresh chili and with the traditional cheese Tashi, not the factory processed amul cheese. And next point is that culinary identity in Bhutan is redefining and reshaping by the global consumers aesthetics and the requirement that results in cultural dilutions. In this era, most people emphasize on visual appearance and exotism over the culture depth and its meaning of the Bhutanese cuisines. For examples, local dishes are often rebranded, stylized to meet the requirement of the tourism. It results in the decline of its social, spiritual, and moral significance. For examples, one of our cuisines like suja. You know how suja is prepared? Actually, suja is prepared by pouring a leaf tea water into a cylindrical container called jasu in earlier days, and where the butter and the milk powder is added. But nowadays, due to your modern food trends and tourism, this suja is replaced by the ready-made factory suja that results in declining and dilution of our culture. You guys are stating that you are keeping the culture alive. You are keeping the culture alive. It is like keeping a body alive without a soul. You know what is soul? Soul is defined by our true culture and tradition. Thank you.
Good morning to you all, respect judges and model tutor and all my dear friends. Global food trends, they do not erase our identity, but inspire a powerful cultural hybrids that keeps it alive. Globalization doesn't mean imitations. What they do is they create innovations, and the world's flavor, they do not drown ours, but what they do is they harmonize with them, and it creates a modern food trends, which is not a culture invaders, but they are catalysts for localization, creating a creative coexistence of global and local that keeps our Bhutanese cuisine relevant. To go on with the Robertson's globalization theory and the Peter's cultural hybridization theory, what they say is globalization does not replace culture. Instead, it transforms it. Mainly, it means that the chefs and the farmers and entrepreneurs, what they do is they change the local food into cuisines such that it can attract new audiences. And this is in dilution, but it is an evolution. And a study by Wangchuk and Dema suggests that the fusion of such local food trends with innovations, they in Thimphu and Paro, they boost the local pride of the people. The local people see it as a creative way of expressing their identity to the others. And tourism-based modernization, they strengthen our Bhutanese cuisine by adaptive innovations and also by smart market incentives. That is, the modernization is not an enemy to the traditions, but it is a bridge that keeps it alive. What they do is, rather than eroding the culinary heritage, tourism and the contemporary food revitalize our Bhutanese cuisines by turning them into a living, marketable symbols of national prides. Then the modernization theory and the concept of creative economy shows that the growth in economy, they do not replace our culture, rather it empowers it to evolve, where the chefs, farmers, and entrepreneurs, what they do is they do not abandon our tradition, but they take age-old recipes and then they blend it with modern techniques and business model that to attract new audiences, but without losing their authentic essence. The Bhutan Tourism Monitor reports that they saw a rising demand in the authentic Bhutanese experiences.
My worthy opinion, keep your theories aside. We, the proposition, strongly affirm that the modern food trends and the tourisms threatens, abuse the preservations of the local cuisines and traditional food identity. Bhutan's culinary heritage was once deeply tied to self-sufficiency, community, and nature. But today, due to your modern food trends and tourism, it has shifted from our local cuisines and traditional food identity to fast food and processed snacks which are readily available in markets. And have you heard about hente, habi hente? It is usually prepared to celebrate the coming of the new year and end of the harvest season. But due to the increase in the tourism, what people does is that they are producing the hente all throughout the year, not only during that occasion. That results in declining the rarity of this. The culture can be defined and make unique by increasing its rarity. You know what gold makes it expensive? Because gold is rare. For that, we have to celebrate and we have to promote the food as per the time and requirement. Additionally, as I mentioned, economic globalizations. This has resulted to the loss of the market to the farmers and traditional food like a dunagu. They are disappearing from our field. If we allow this to continue, Bhutan cuisines risks to be a mere brand, a copy without an original. My author opinion, can you hear? A copy without an original. So therefore, we stand united in asserting that the modern food trends and tourism is threatening, is abusing the preservations of our local cuisines and traditional food identity. Yeah, let's embrace the innovation, but not at the cost of erasing the flavors, value, and the stories that define who we are. We are Bhutanese. We are not Japanese. We are not Korean. We are not Chinese. We are Bhutanese. We should define ourselves by culture of food, cuisines, and thank you.
I would like to conclude against the motion that we are not defending the globalization. We are defending far deeper than that. That is the strength, resilience, and creativity of our own culture. Firstly, modernization does not mean westernization, and do not be afraid of term modern. And across the Bhutan, we can see that innovation of traditional food blend with the modern food, such as red rice risotto, and also the buckwheat pancake has been evolved in Bhutan. But this does not mean that it leads to cultural loss, but it is the cultural re-innovation. And also, it is to be informed that it does not mean that our culture is fading, but it is the form of survival and inspiration. And secondly, tourism and modern food trend helps to fuel the preservation through the participation. It is to be noted that tourist is not enemy, but they are the engine of our empowerment. According to FAO 2023, it is stated that 30% of Bhutanese ingredients demand are increasing because of increase in the tourist. And this does not only show it is a food, but it also indicates livelihood, heritage, and dignity served in a form of food. lastly, I would like to say that modern food trends and tourism lose in the food identity, but it is a force that helps to keep the culinary heritage alive, evolving, and thriving. Thank you.